I wasn't looking for anything in particular. Just killing time after work, wandering the aisles of an old thrift shop that smelled like mildew and forgotten things. The place was tucked between a shuttered laundromat and a boarded-up diner. The kind of shop you don't remember walking into, only stumbling out of with something strange in your hands. That day, it was a scratched-up MP3 player at the bottom of a dusty bin labeled Tech Graveyard, $5. It was heavy for its size, unnaturally so, and warm to the touch like it had just been held. The plastic was cloudy, the screen cracked, like a spider web, and there were deep gouges on the back as if someone had tried to claw it open. But what really caught my eye was that it had a single file on it. No music, no folders, just one oddly named track. The time on the shop's old wall clock was stuck at 3:33. I didn't think much of it, just a weird coincidence. The old man at the counter didn't even look at what I was buying. He just rang it up with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes and said, "That one always finds its way back." I laughed. He didn't. I walked out with it in my pocket, unaware that I had just taken home something that didn't want to be owned. Only passed on. That night, the track started playing by itself, and what I heard was the sound of me dying. At first, I thought I must have hit play by accident. I had left the MP3 player on my nightstand after getting home too tired to mess with it. But at exactly 3:33 a.m., I woke up with a jolt. The room was cold, still, the kind of stillness that presses on your eardrums like a vacuum. Then I heard it faint at first, like a whisper bleeding through the silence. It was coming from the MP3 player. I leaned over and picked it up. The screen flickered weakly, then glowed a sickly green. I plugged in a pair of dusty earbuds and hit play on what I heard wasn't music. It was me, or at least, it sounded like me. Heavy breathing, like I'd been running, footsteps behind me. My voice gasping, frantic, muttering, "No, no. Please, not again." Then a sharp screech, like metal dragging across asphalt. Something growled. Wet, meaty crunching sounds followed bone shattering, cartilage snapping, as if something enormous was feeding. Then my scream. A blood-curdling, soul-splitting scream that rose into a gurgle and abruptly cut off. I sat frozen, my heart pounding, cold sweat dripping down my neck. The file ended with 3 dull knocks, spaced precisely apart, like something knocking from inside the device. I yanked the earbuds out and threw the player across the room. It hit the wall and fell, but didn't break. The screen still glowed faintly, and the track name blinked in reverse. That wasn't a song. It was a recording. And somehow, it knew my voice. And how I'd die. I didn't sleep after that. I just sat in bed, staring at the MP3 player lying face down on the carpet. I told myself it had to be some weird audio trick, some random track with a voice that sounded like mine. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. That voice, the panic in it, the fear wasn't an imitation. It was mine, from a moment that hadn't happened yet. At least not here. Before we jump back in, make sure you subscribe. Because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special just for you. Another story, another secret, and maybe a whisper you weren't meant to hear. By morning, I convinced myself I was overreacting. Sleep deprivation, stress, maybe some messed up viral marketing stunt. I even laughed about it in the shower. But when I stepped out and looked in the mirror, my reflection was delayed. Not frozen, not reversed, just late, by a second. Like I'd already moved and it was catching up. I blinked. My reflection didn't, and for a split second, its mouth twitched up into a smile I wasn't making. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the sound, the scream, the way it ended like something had torn my throat open mid-breath. I left the MP3 player in the kitchen drawer, wrapped in a dish towel. Around midnight, I finally drifted off. On the couch, the TV casting flickering shadows across the walls. And then, the knocking started. 3 dull knocks. Not from the door, from the drawer. I sat up, heart pounding, every muscle locked. The knocks came again, louder this time. Thunk, thunk, thunk. The microwave clock read 3:33 a.m. I grabbed a flashlight and opened the drawer. The dish towel was lying neatly folded. The MP3 player was on top, screen glowing even though I hadn't charged it. And it was playing, no headphones. Just the raw audio spilling out into the room. My scream again. That same scream. But this time, there was a second voice at the end. Low, guttural, and so close I swear it was whispering just behind me. You're almost there. I spun around, nothing. Just empty space and darkness. But I knew I wasn't alone. The sound hadn't come from the MP3. It had come from me. From inside my own throat. I called in sick to work the next day. There was no way I could sit in a cubicle pretending everything was normal while that thing, the MP3 player, sat in my house like a loaded gun. I spent the morning researching cursed tech, haunted objects, anything that could explain what was happening. Most of it was ridiculous. Urban legends. Internet fiction. But one thread stood out. Death echoes, recordings. Not made by us, but for us. They said sometimes, at the exact moment someone dies, a ripple of that moment gets etched into the physical world. Not a memory, not a ghost, but a vibration stuck in time, waiting to be played. Around noon I decided to destroy it. I grabbed the MP3 player, walked out behind my apartment complex, and slammed it against the brick wall until the casing cracked. I kept going until the buttons popped off and the battery snapped out. But the screen, already shattered, still glowed faintly beneath the spiderweb cracks. The audio file was still there, still waiting. When I looked up, my reflection in the glass door across the lot wasn't moving. I stood frozen. It stood still too, but its eyes, they were wrong, just black pits where mine should have been. I blinked. It didn't. I turned away. It smiled. And then, just before it faded, it mouthed something I couldn't hear. I think it was a countdown. I ran back to my apartment and went straight to the bathroom, needing to splash cold water on my face. But when I looked into the mirror above the sink, I wasn't there. Not fully. My reflection was missing chunks, glitching out like a corrupted video file. My face would blur for a second, then reappear, then vanish entirely. The mirror trembled, like a TV screen with bad reception. And just when I thought it was stabilizing, my reflection turned away from me. It broke the laws of mirrors. It looked over its shoulder and faced away, even though I hadn't moved. Then, I heard my own voice whisper behind me, "You're not supposed to be alive yet." I spun around. Nothing. No one. Just the quiet hum of the MP3 player still glowing from the kitchen drawer. I'm starting to realize this thing doesn't just play the sound of my death. It's getting ready for it. I told myself not to listen again. I promised. But it was like an itch under my skin. A question that needed answering. Was it changing? Was the track just looping or evolving? That night, I put the MP3 player on my desk and stared at it for hours. The apartment was quiet, except for the ticking of the wall clock and the low hum of the refrigerator. But at exactly 3:33 a.m., the clock stopped ticking. The hum stopped. The silence was so deep I could hear the blood in my ears. And then the MP3 player powered on by itself. No touching. No buttons pressed. Just a faint glow from the screen. The track played. At first, it was the same. My breathing, my footsteps, the rising panic. But then something shifted. A new sound layered over the old wet dragging noise, like something pulling itself across asphalt. There was metal screeching, chains. Then came the voice. Not mine. A second voice. Deep, echoing, like it wasn't coming through the earbuds at all, but from inside my chest. "You're not ready, but you will be." I ripped the earbuds out and hurled the player across the room, but I could still hear it. Not from the speakers, not from the floor, from the damn walls. The same track, but louder, closer. I clutched my head trying to drown it out, but that only made it clearer. I heard myself begging, pleading for my life, and I heard a door slam, a heavy door, like a vault or a coffin lid. Then silence, but not the kind you rest in, the kind that waits. I shut off every breaker in my apartment and lit a candle just to feel in control. But the moment the flame flickered, the room grew cold. I looked up and saw my reflection in the dark TV screen across the room. My mouth wasn't moving, but in the reflection, it was screaming. And in the corner of the screen, just barely visible, something tall was standing behind me, watching, not moving, like it was waiting for its cue. I think every time I play the track, I get a little closer to where it was recorded, not just in sound but in time. And when the final version plays, I won't be here to hear it. I'll just be the noise. I needed answers, real ones. I wasn't dealing with some haunted antique or a glitch voice recorder. This felt targeted, designed, like someone or something meant for me to find it. So I went back to the thrift store. The bell above the door jingled like normal, but the shop felt off, dimmer, as if the shadows stuck around longer than they should. The guy at the register was different this time, younger, long hair, tattoo of a moth on his neck. I asked about the old man who sold me the MP3 player. He blinked slowly, confused. "What old man?" he asked. I described him, the thick glasses, the brown cardigan, the liver spots on his hands. The way he said that one always finds its way back. The clerk's face drained of color. He leaned forward and whispered like he didn't want the walls to hear. "That man hasn't worked here in over a decade. He died in this building. Heart attack. He was found in the back room alone with a broken radio clutched to his chest. No batteries, no cord, just playing static." He paused, then added, "He used to say weird things to customers. Gave away things we never had in our inventory." I asked to check the security footage from the day I was here. He hesitated, then brought me behind the counter. The dusty monitor showed me walking into the store alone, browsing, picking up the MP3 player. But when I brought it to the register, there was no one else on screen. I was talking to thin air, smiling, laughing, holding out money to no one. And the register? It didn't even open. I felt my legs go weak. The guy turned to me and asked, "You said you bought it?" I nodded. "Man, that thing wasn't ours. That bin? We never had a tech graveyard section." I left the store in a daze. But before I reached my car, I turned and saw the storefront again. The sign was gone. The windows were blacked out. A chain wrapped around the door handles with a bright orange sticker, closed permanently since 2015. I stood there trembling, holding the MP3 player in my hand. If I never bought it, if the store no longer existed, then where the hell did I get it? And worse, why is it still playing? I became obsessed with decoding the audio. If I couldn't stop it, maybe I could understand it, tear it apart. Layer by layer, I uploaded the WAV file into editing software and slowed it down, reversed it, isolated the frequencies. That's when I discovered something horrifying. Beneath my screams, beneath the dragging sounds and the wet tearing, there was another voice. A woman's voice. Soft, crying, whispering something I couldn't make out. I looped it over and over, played it backward, adjusted the pitch. Eventually, it surfaced clear as a whisper in my ear. "It ends when the song ends. Don't listen again." But I did. Of course I did, because I needed to know more. Her voice wasn't mine. It wasn't distorted like the others. It was real, raw, full of grief. I became convinced she was warning me, trapped in the recording like a ghost in a loop. Maybe she was a victim like I was going to be. Maybe she found it before I did. And maybe she didn't make it out. I searched every word she said. Forums, dark web boards, lost media threads. I finally found something on a private paranormal sub-forum, a thread titled, The 333 File, no username. Just a post that read, do not listen more than once. The first time is a copy, the second makes a connection. The third is an invitation. Below it was a download link, broken, years old, but the comments chilled me. I heard my sister in the track. She's been missing since 2007. The woman says things change after the third listen. She was right. My reflection doesn't blink anymore. There's someone in the background of the audio. He's not breathing. Some of the users who commented were marked account deleted. Others hadn't posted since. That night I listened again. The audio had changed. The woman wasn't crying anymore. She was screaming. After the third listen, everything began to unravel. The boundaries of what was real, what was mine shifted like wet paint sliding off a canvas. I'd wake up at night and find the MP3 player glowing on the dresser, even though I'd locked it inside a drawer under books. I'd hear faint tapping 3 knocks beneath my floorboards, always at 3:33 a.m. And then came the smells. Iron, rot, static. That last one doesn't make sense, I know, but that's the only word for it. Like burning ozone mixed with something sour chemical. A smell you feel in your teeth. I tried sleeping at a friend's house. Marcus, no tech, no signal interference, no weird humming. But at 3:33, we both woke up at the same time. The room was icy cold. Marcus went pale and said, I just had the worst dream. I heard you screaming. But not you now, you dying. I didn't say a word. I didn't tell him about the player. I didn't tell him that I heard his voice in the background of the latest playback, just for a second. Distorted like a bad signal. Hey man. You okay? Hello. The next day, I found Marcus in his car. Slumped forward, no crash, no wounds, no cause of death. His phone screen was cracked, frozen on a timestamp, 3:33 a.m. At his funeral, I didn't speak. I just watched the others cry. And felt hollow inside, like my body was just rehearsing grief. That night, the MP3 player buzzed in my pocket. I didn't press play. It played itself. And this time, there were 2 voices screaming. I'm starting to believe this isn't a curse. It's a contagion. The track spreads, grows, echoes outward. I haven't connected it to the internet. I haven't sent it to anyone. But it doesn't matter. It sends itself. 3 days after Marcus died, I woke up to a new file on the MP3 player. I hadn't touched it. I hadn't powered it on. But there it was sitting on the table, its cracked screen pulsing faint green, like a heartbeat under skin. The original file was still there, track_0333.wav. But now below it, a new one had appeared, track_0333_2.wav. I should have turned away, burned the thing, smashed it into dust, and buried it somewhere far from human contact. But I pressed play. The new recording started with static louder, sharper than before. Then I heard a voice. Not mine, Marcus. He was laughing at first, drunk maybe, or trying to act tough. Dude, this is creepy, he said. Then silence. Then footsteps. Then a sharp inhale, and his voice distorted, terrified, screaming my name. Hello? Bro. Where are you? I can't see anything. Something growled. Wet footsteps, dragging sounds. Chains like before. But this time, I heard him running, screaming, crying. There was a metallic slam, a choked sob, and then a voice not Marcus and not mine. A third voice, low, ancient. You shouldn't have listened again. The track cut off at exactly 3:33. I stared at the screen, my hands trembling. I knew Marcus never recorded this. He never even touched the device. He didn't know it existed, which meant something else recorded it. Something that was with him when he died. That night, I buried the MP3 player in the woods behind my apartment. 6 feet deep, wrapped in plastic. I didn't tell anyone. Didn't mark the spot. I felt sick, weak, like the thing had fed on me somehow. But when I woke up the next morning, it was sitting on my pillow, dirt still clinging to its casing. The screen blinked once and showed a new folder, track_033_3.wav, and this time, the file size was bigger, and the timestamp? Tomorrow's date. I didn't press play. I couldn't. That third file track_0333_3.wav just sat there, waiting like a sealed envelope contains your death certificate. My name wasn't on it, but it might as well have been. The timestamp read July 20th, the next day. 3:33 a.m. It felt like a countdown, ticking silently beneath everything I did. Even the air seemed heavier, thicker, like the world itself was closing in around me. I tried reaching out to someone, anyone who could help. Psychics, paranormal, investigators, even a priest. Most ignored me. The few who responded vanished after I sent them the audio. But one guy finally replied. A burner account. Username, Codec Bleeds. He said he'd seen this before. Called it the collector. Said it was older than tape, older than sound, something that doesn't kill with claws or teeth, but with pattern, a loop, a death written in sound waves. It doesn't hunt, he said. It collects echoes. Your scream is just the bait for the next voice. I asked how to stop it. He replied with one line. When the file plays without the player, you're already inside the recording. Then his account vanished. That night, I left the player in the freezer. I wrapped it in aluminum foil. I unplugged every speaker, every electronic device. Still, at 3:33 a.m., the file played, through my walls, through the pipes, through the hum in the refrigerator. It was no longer confined to the player. The voice on the track was mine, but twisted, warped with static and fear. I wasn't just screaming anymore, I was pleading. Then I heard something else layered beneath it, new this time. A child crying, a knock, and a whisper. Welcome to the collection. I don't know how much longer I have, but I think I understand now why it spreads, why it keeps playing. It doesn't just record your death, it pulls you inside it. Your scream becomes the sound of the next person's end. You're not listening to your death, you're rehearsing it, memorizing your part, and once you know your lines, you never leave the recording. I left town that night. Drove until the sky turned black and the road forgot where it came from. I took nothing but cash, a duffer bag, and against all logic, the MP3 player. I couldn't just leave it behind. Not because I wanted it, but because I was afraid someone else might find it. And if they did, it would start again. No more clocks. No more Wi-Fi. I ditched my phone on the freeway. Slept in rest stops. Ate from vending machines. But at 3:33 a.m., no matter where I parked, the playback returned. Not just from the MP3 player, from everything. The buzz of the vending machine turned to screams. The wind through the trees whispered in my voice. It hurts every time. One night I stayed in a roadside motel with no TVs, no radio, nothing electronic, except a single light bulb that flickered like it couldn't decide whether to live or die. I locked the MP3 player in the bathroom and turned the shower on full blast just to drown out the hum. It didn't help. The light bulb began to buzz, then pulse in rhythm, 3 short flickers, 3 slow ones, 3 long. Morse code. I looked it up later. As OC, the water from the faucet turned cold. Then red. The mirror fogged up and revealed a message, written in a hand that wasn't mine. Don't let them forget your voice. I left the next morning. I don't remember checking out. I barely remember starting the car. But when I turned the key, the radio came on by itself, blaring static, then laughter. Not mine. Not a person's, something pretending to be human. I turned off the ignition. The radio stayed on. The voice said, "You're not running, you're already playing." I threw the MP3 player into a river near the state line. And 2 hours later, when I stopped for gas, it was sitting on the passenger seat. Screen lit, new track. Track _ 0333 _ 4.wav. The date was 3 days from now. The name wasn't mine. It was the name of the gas station attendant I had just seen. I didn't warn the gas station attendant. I wanted to. I really did. But what would I say? "Hey, I have a haunted MP3 player that predicts death, and apparently you're next." Instead, I stared at him through the glass door as I pumped my gas, trying to remember his voice, wondering how it would sound distorted, warped into static. Wondering how many more voices the device needed before it was full. And if, when it was full, it would finally stop or begin. I checked the file again later that night. Track _ 0333 _ 4.wav. The folder had updated. The file was no longer just there, it was playing. Automatically, silently, no audio came through. But I watched the progress bar crawl slowly forward, second by second. I couldn't hear it with my ears, but I felt it in my spine. I turned the volume up. Nothing. Then I muted it just out of instinct. That's when the sound came, from behind me, soft at first. Breathing, then my own voice, but not from the device. From the shadows, whispering words I hadn't said. Yet, they already know what you sound like when you break. I turned. Slowly, but no one was there. Just my reflection in the window, except it wasn't mimicking me anymore. Its lips were moving on their own. I stared in horror as it whispered something over and over, mouthing the words I could barely hear. Not your voice. Not your voice. Not your voice. Suddenly, the audio track snapped into full volume. It was me, but not me. A warped, corrupted version of my voice screaming. Screaming like I didn't have lungs, like my mouth had been stretched open far beyond what bone should allow. Then I heard another voice underneath it. The gas station attendant, begging, crying, saying my name. "Please, whoever you are, turn it off. Turn it off." I shut the MP3 player off and threw it under the bed. But the scream kept going, not from the speaker, not from outside, from inside my chest. Like something had reached in and recorded my insides. I stopped hearing things externally. The knocks, the screams, the whispers, those were just invitations. What comes after is worse. The sounds are inside me now. I can feel them vibrating behind my eyes, in the cavities of my skull, in the spaces between ribs where silence should live. The MP3 player is no longer a device, it's a doorway, a receiver, a mouth, and I think I'm the signal. I tried to destroy it again, this time with fire. I doused it in lighter fluid and burned it in a rusted barbecue pit behind an abandoned trailer off the interstate. I watched the plastic melt and sizzle, listened to the screen crackle like bones snapping, but the flames hissed in protest. And the scream that came from inside the fire was mine, not current me dying me. The scream from the track, identical, agonizing, perfect, and when the flames died down, the MP3 player was gone, not ash, not melted, gone. I got back in my car numb. I didn't check the glove compartment. I didn't have to. The next time I turned on the ignition, the car's speakers hissed with static. Then my own voice came through clearer than ever. I was speaking, not screaming, reading something. I turned the volume up and realized with horror I was reading the description of the very room I was in, describing myself, my exact position, my exact breath. It was a live feed, but not of me, from me. The track was playing in real time. I glanced in the rearview mirror. My reflection didn't move. It didn't blink. It leaned forward slowly, as if struggling through molasses, until its face pressed against the inside of the glass and whispered, "This isn't a recording anymore, it's a broadcast. I don't know what day it is anymore." I stopped counting after the fifth new file appeared. They just keep stacking. Track underscore 0333 underscore 5.wav. Track underscore 0333 underscore 6.wav. Track underscore 0333 underscore 7.wav. Each one has Breon, a name I've never heard. People I haven't met yet, but I recognize the screams. Sometimes I see them just for a second. A face at the bus stop. A barista behind the counter. A man washing his hands in a gas station bathroom. I know with complete certainty that within hours, they'll be inside the track. Because I bring it with me now. Not the device, it never leaves me anymore. I think it's inside me. The sounds, the knocks, the countdowns. I try to cover my ears, but it doesn't stop. I can feel it in my throat like static ready to burst out as a scream. It's not just a curse, it's a pattern, a loop, a virus that feeds on recognition, on fear, on sound itself. When you hear your death enough times, it becomes you. The timeline bends until your end is the only possible outcome. No matter where I go, it's always 3:33 when the screaming begins. I caught a glimpse of something in a parking lot mirror last night. My reflection was ahead of me 3 steps into the future. It reached into its coat pocket. I instinctively did the same. My hand closed around the MP3 player, still cracked, still pulsing, but now the screen showed something different. Not a file, a waveform, live, recording. I dropped it, but the screen of every digital thing around me lit up. A passing cars, dash display, a gas station pump screen, a vending machine, even the neon open sign in the window of a diner all flashing in perfect sync with my heartbeat. The waveform was tracking me. I was no longer the listener. I was the song. I'm not sure when the transition happened. Maybe it was when the MP3 player started showing me future victims. Maybe it was when I stopped hearing other people's screams and only heard my own. Or maybe it was when I found the folder labeled final.wav. The file was locked, unopenable. It just sat there taunting me, its timestamp forever, stuck at 3 hours 33 minutes and 0 seconds. Then, one night, the file opened on its own. No prompt, no button press, just opened. And there I was again dying, not fast, not sudden, drawn out. But what made this track different wasn't the scream. It was what came after. A voice. My voice, calm, broken, whispering. And if you're hearing this, it's already too late. I stared at the file in horror. My reflection on the screen didn't move. Didn't blink. It only mouthed the words as I listened again, and again, and again. Then I noticed something even worse. In the background of the track, buried beneath the static, beneath the ragged breath, there was another recording. I enhanced the audio, slowed it down. It was a child's voice, a little girl, giggling, and then humming a tune I knew. The same melody the MP3 player had been playing the very first time I hit play. The song that had no lyrics. The song I thought was a broken file. It wasn't broken. It just wasn't done being written. It was waiting for my scream to complete it. The player had been stitching together death, like a composer layering sounds. Each file, a new instrument. Each victim, a new note. And now, the song is finished, but it hasn't stopped. Because someone new just bought it. I watched through the reflection on a shop window as a man walked out of a pawn shop across the street. I recognized the shape in his hand immediately. That cracked little screen. The slight weight in the pocket. The way you press play without knowing why, and I realized what the final file truly meant. It wasn't the end of the song. It was the end of me. but not the end of the recording, because once you play it, it plays you back. Forever. The end.